presentation of Fox Sports.
We are sports. We are Southeast.
It's a beautiful night for baseball here at SunTrust Park here in Atlanta, Georgia, and the New York Mets are in town. And this week's Mets-Braves series is presented by Echo Outdoor Power Equipment. Plenty of power on display here at the ballpark last night. The ball has been jumping here at SunTrust Park. We'll see what happens in Game 2 tonight. Joe and Chip back with you at the ballpark where 19 home runs have been hit so far here in the young history of SunTrust Park. That's good news for a power-hungry Braves club, and what a difference a year makes in that department.
No question about it. The way these guys are swinging the bat right now has made a real difference in this ball club. Fun to watch, and it's up and down the lineup, too. It's not just one or two guys. Ender Inciarte's been getting on base. That's been setting the table for Freddie Freeman and Matt Kemp and Nick Markakis. And when you look at a comparison to last year, there is no comparison. Batting average is up. In fact, the team is now third in the league in team batting average. You want to talk about power? How about 28-5 in home runs? That says it all right there. But also the Braves are doing some other things. They are not striking out as much as you would expect. They are second in the league in the fewest strikeouts. They're sucking up some walks, too. They're fourth in the league in that category. So by getting on base, striking out less, they're scoring more runs.
And putting a lot of pressure on the opposing starters. Tonight, it's the dark night. Matt Harvey pitches for New York. R.A. Dickey, the former Met, gets the ball for the Braves. First pitch coming up in just a few moments.
Braves versus Mets series sponsorship presented by Echo Outdoor Power Equipment.
Chamber of Commerce weather in Atlanta for Game 2 of our series between the visiting New York Mets and the homestanding Atlanta Braves, who start play tonight 10-14 so far this year. Here's a look at the Braves defensive lineup. Matt Kemp, Ender Inciarte, and Nick Markakis left to right in the outfield. Around the horn, Freddie Freeman at first, Brandon Phillips at second. Dansby Swanson is the Braves shortstop with Adonis Garcia back at third base. Kurt Suzuki's behind the plate. And R.A. Dickey, of course, will be the pitcher for Brian Snitker, the Braves manager. 69 and 79 since taking over for Freddie Gonzalez. And as you know, 4 decades plus for Brian Snitker as a member of the Braves organization.
There's R.A. Dickey, all set to make his 5th start of the year. His numbers against the New York Mets, his former team, are impeccable. 3-0 in 4 games with a 2.05 ERA, 2.25 average against him. That includes a win his last time out in New York. 5 innings that were limited by a quad strain, and that leads us to our 4 keys to pitching success. We'll go with the 2nd key tonight. Easy to first. If you hit a ground ball or you put down a bunt, go easy to first. Don't run the risk of re-injuring that quad trying to leg out an infield hit. And downspin, that's just trying to get that knuckleball down a little bit. He has given up 4 home runs this year. These guys are known to hit a few home runs. This ballpark, as you said, 19 have been hit already. I didn't know it was that many, but yeah, get that knuckler tilting down a little bit tonight.
That would be a great way to start for R.A. Dickey. And Joe mentioned the quad injury suffered by R.A. Thursday in New York. It came against Matt Harvey, and that was a critical part of the game. Dickey was trying to avoid a double play, and the Braves got a run. He stayed in the game, pitched until the 5th, and then came out up at Citi Field. And obviously R.A. after the game said he didn't figure it would be a problem for tonight's start, and here he is rematching with Matt Harvey. The Mets enter play tonight at 11-14. They're 6 games behind the Nationals. Michael Conforto led off with a home run. He's atop the Toyota starting lineup for Terry Collins. Juan Lagares gets the start for the Mets in center field. That's because Curtis Granderson's in the throes of a 1-for-29 slide at the plate. And I think it's safe to say, Joe, the win for New York last night was desperately needed, considering all the drama that this ball club has gone through the last 48 hours.
Well, they got a good effort from Gesellman, who pitched into the 6th inning. He kind of ran out of gas in the 6th inning, but before that, he gave them innings to save their bullpen, which they desperately needed to after that blowout in Washington.
So the Mets and Braves have played 6 games. They've been evenly split to this point. We'll see how tonight's affair turns out with R.A. Dickey and Matt Harvey. Michael Conforto leads off. He's playing left field for New York. And R.A.'s first pitch floats in for a called strike. First pitch 23 minutes before the hour, 7:37 Eastern Time. 76 degrees here at SunTrust Park. I think it's safe to say the Mets found themselves a pretty good leadoff man. Michael Conforto has settled into the #1 spot very, very effectively. 3 leadoff homers. He's riding a 4-game hitting streak.
A little bit like Kyle Schwarber with the Cubs, providing some power right at the top of the order. Only in Conforto's case, he's got a high batting average too. Braves have scored 5 runs or more in 5 of their last 6 games. To piggyback on our opening comments about the offense, it has been really good. Just need a well-pitched game tonight.
3 balls and a strike for Michael Conforto, and he turns on that baby and rockets it foul and out of play. We'll do it again at 3-2.
First time in Mets history that they had their leadoff man hit a homer in the first inning, and that the opponent also had their leadoff man hit a homer.
It has happened before in the big leagues, most notably last September. Gene Segura and Charlie Blackmon hit homers for the Diamondbacks and the Rockies in the first inning of a game down at Chase Field in Phoenix. Another full count pitch is taken low, and Conforto's aboard to start the game. And Asdrubal Cabrera is coming up.
You know you're locked in when on a 3-2 count you lay off a knuckleball in that spot.
Cabrera batting .247 for the year, a couple of homers. He's knocked in 10.
2 lifetime homers against R.A. Dickey. That one got away from Kurt, and Conforto moves up 90 feet.
It had some downward tilt to it. So much so that that'll. Oh, that's got to change. That's got to be a pass ball. It didn't even hit in the dirt.
So Conforto at second with nobody out. Cabrera will try to advance him at the very least. And he yanked that foul. Might have fouled it off his foot. And the count even a ball and a strike. Mets have been a much better road team this year. They've won 7 of 11. They're 4-10 on their home field. But hitting just .218 as a club. Popped up. That's headed for the seats behind the Mets dugout.
Good to see Adonis back out there today. I'm sure that left kneecap is still bruised and sore after fouling one off his knee last night late.
R.A. is ready with a 1-2 pitch. After this series, the Mets have a set coming up with the Miami Marlins, and that will end this very odd schedule for New York. They will have finished 3 series with the Braves. Their first 32 games have been within the Eastern Division. And so for New York, the last 3 they have with the Braves and their next series coming up with the Marlins could be critically important as they try to keep within striking distance of Washington and Dusty Baker's Nationals.
Yeah, won't be able to take care of business themselves.
And then you look at the schedule for New York in the month of May. On paper, at least, it looks to be pretty favorable for them as they try to get their team back together because of all the April injuries. 1-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. Cabrera didn't get it. Couldn't advance Conforto. And there's the first out.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, that pitch was made for our super slow motion camera just to be able to show you how little it spins.
And you know, I don't know how many pitches R.A. has thrown this year. I can only think of maybe 2 or 3 where we haven't seen that lack of spin on the knuckleball, which is what you want.
Right. He pitched that great game against Washington and had 1 pitch that didn't move, just kind of stayed on the same plane, and Ryan Zimmerman hit a 2-run homer.
1 ball, no strikes for Bruce. High fly ball hammered deep right field. Markakis will turn and admire that one. It's a long home run for Jay Bruce, and the Mets have jumped in front 2-0. That was no cheapie. He unloaded, and Bruce with 8 homers.
He was pretty much doing that all during batting practice. Oh, that one just stayed up. I don't think that was a knuckleball. I think they tried to fool him with something else, and he didn't miss it. Crushed it. Yeah. 2-seamer fastball. Anyway, that's all he was doing in batting practice, hitting home runs. Home run derby.
So the Mets now with 40 home runs as a club. They have a 2-0 lead in the first for Matt Harvey, and Neil Walker's the batter, and that's out of play, foul. Walker's off to a slow start at the plate. 5 hits in his last 33 at bats, and hitting an even 200. It's 1-2. That's how the Mets are built. They hit home runs.
Not a real good defensive ball club. Pitching and homers.
Matt Harvey's gotten a ton of run support in the early days of this season. He's up 2-0 before he's thrown a pitch. And right back to the mound. Good play by R.A. And that takes care of Walker for the second out.
That's why you square up when you follow through as a pitcher to become an infielder then.
Thankfully, Tom Glavine's not here. He's watching his son Mason's lacrosse game tonight. Otherwise, we'd be hearing about all the athletics of R.A. Dickey.
He's probably got, you know, like a earpiece from his telephone and said it anyway.
1 ball, 1 strike. Tommy will be back with us tomorrow night for game 3. 2-0 Mets for Travis d'Arnaud. He's the catcher. Low average for d'Arnaud, but when he's made contact, he's been productive. 16 RBIs.
And had a 2 home run game in Washington.
d'Arnaud had 15 RBIs in 75 games last year. And according to the Mets notes, he's the first player since 1920 to exceed his previous year's RBI total by April 30th of the following year.
Wow. That's encouraging.
2-2. Swing and tipped and caught. That'll be the inning for New York. A leadoff walk to Conforto. A 2-run homer for Jay Bruce. And the Mets lead 2-0. For the Braves and Mets.
Javi Lopez getting the crowd in a frenzy, doing the chop.
Hopefully it'll be effective for the Braves offense, which has been cooking, and they will face Matt Harvey.
Take a look at these situational averages. When he gets in trouble and has to work out of the stretch, man, do the numbers skyrocket. He's had a hard time getting out of jams, including his start against Atlanta on the 27th of April. Did not get out of the 5th inning. 5 hits, 6 runs, more importantly 5 walks. Again, he's walked 7 in his last 11 innings, and if he does that tonight in this ballpark, he's going to pay a heavy price.
Ender Inciarte hit a leadoff homer for the Braves. He's atop the Toyota starting lineup again. Dansby Swanson 8th, Kurt Suzuki 7th. And this Braves attack, they've been hitting the ball out of the ballpark quite a bit, as we've mentioned. Harvey's surrendered 6 homers this year. Let's see what happens here in the Braves first. And Harvey delivers a strike. Much was made of Matt's start against Atlanta in New York. He was rather surprised, apparently, that he was given the ball. He said he didn't find out he was starting until about 10 o'clock in the morning and was not prepared to pitch. Apparently Matt has a very regimented workout program, and he had a weightlifting session the day before, which is what he normally does. But had he known he was starting the next day, apparently Harvey would have altered his pre-start preparation.
Yeah, so when they asked him if he could go, why didn't he say no? I mean, in the best interest of the team, I understand how a player wants to step up, but if he knew he wasn't going to be effective, that's damaging to the team's results.
And the Braves bombarded him up in New York. Down and in. 6 runs, 5 walks, and 4 1/3 innings, and we noticed it almost immediately with Harvey. He did not look comfortable from the first pitch up at Citi Field.
And was not throwing hard.
Slowly hit towards short. Cabrera's got it. He'll throw to first. Close play, but Ender's retired for out number 1.
Mets have made 22 errors this year. The Braves have committed 14. The league leader, the Miami Marlins, they've only made 6 errors.
Brandon Phillips in the 2 spot. His 13-game hitting streak ended last night, but he starts play with the 7th highest average in the league at .338. And Harvey is throwing hard tonight. That was 96 miles an hour. Line drive into right field, a base hit. Phillips starts a new hitting streak today, and he's aboard in front of Freddie Freeman.
When we saw Matt Harvey at the beginning of the season, that first series of the year, I remember thinking, uh-oh, this guy's back. He looks like the old Matt Harvey. And then to see what we saw in New York just last week, it was like, what happened? We found out there were some things, you know, working on short rest or workout or whatever it was. So I'm kind of wondering which guy we'll see tonight, if it's the hard throwing aggressive guy that's been successful or not.
Well, the Braves have beaten him 5 times in 9 career starts head to head. Harvey a .422 lifetime ERA against the Braves. And Freddie had that covered, fouled it away. 1 ball, 1 strike. Freddie's got a 6-game hitting streak. 9 hits in that stretch. And he starts play with the 4th highest average in the National League at .379. Shift on for him. And he strokes one down the left field line. That's well hit. Did he keep it fair? It is just foul. And Phillips back to first with a 1-2 count.
Six and 11 over his last 13. That's just a continuation, really, of his whole month of April.
Phillips is 5 out of 6 in the stolen base department. Keep an eye on him. 1 ball, 2 strikes for Freddie Freeman. And it's an even count. It hasn't taken Freddie long to get very comfortable with his home batter's box. Freddie Freeman has had 24 at bats at SunTrust Park. He's got 12 hits. That's a .500 average. And that's pulled foul.
Well, everybody says, all the hitters say it's a good batter's eye. Can see the ball well.
Pitch number 6 for Freeman coming up. And he took it low. Good at bat. Phillips is running. Swing and a high drive. That baby is long gone. How far? We're tied at 2.
Heads up in the burger joint. Breaking ball launched into the H&F burger porch up there. Yikes.
Yeah. Unbelievable. So last night we had both leadoff men hit solo homers. Tonight, Jay Bruce, the Mets' third-place hitter, hits a 2-run homer. Atlanta's third-place hitter, Freddie Freeman, hits a 2-run homer. And it's a 2-2 score here in the first.
And Freddie into double digits in homers. And he hasn't really done that well against Harvey. He was 4 for 24 against him before that at bat. But he saw a lot of pitches.
So Harvey's given up 7 homers in 30 innings. And Matt Kemp is the batter, and Matt's touched him for 3 homers in his career. And Kemp takes a 5-pitch walk. He's at first. 3 straight Braves have reached after Ender Inciarte grounded out. And here's Markakis. This is what the Braves drew up in the offseason. The heart of their order was so damaging last year in August and September. Look at what the heart of the order's done in our Georgia lottery, hitting the jackpot.
That's what you want, isn't it? Guys who are able to pick up the people in front of them. And just like they did, like you said, the last 2 months, it's a continuation. Huge part of the offense.
There's a strike. 0-1 for Nick. Nick was 0 for 4 last night, but still very productive. He drove in 2 runs with 2 groundouts. And he's up to 12 RBIs on the season. And now he'll have to protect with an 0-2 count.
That was a pretty good backdoor slider there.
Wicked slider takes care of Markakis. First strikeout for Harvey. 2 out.
I think that was similar to what he wanted to do to Freddie Freeman. More of a back foot type slider, and he just didn't get it buried in there enough. Surprised that doesn't have ketchup all over it.
Here's Garcia. Adonis at 226. And a tapper back to the mound. And that will retire the side. A couple of 2-run homers in the first inning. Freddie Freeman's 10th went a country mile into the H&F burger joint. above the chop house and right. New life for Atlanta. 2-2 your score after one exciting inning at SunTrust.
Baseball is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. For all, for less.
Well, how about that first inning? A couple of 2-run homers, one by Jay Bruce, one by Freddie Freeman. And as we go to the second, we're all tied up in game 2 between the Braves and the Mets.
Start over.
That's exactly what R.A. Dickey will do with Jose Reyes coming up. Braves got him going up in New York. Reyes hit a home run against the Braves up at Citi Field and hasn't stopped hitting since.
Reyes has averaged about 100 points in the last 7 games.
Reyes had another homer here last night. Were you surprised at the distance that Reyes got out of his fly ball that went out of the bullpen?
Shocked. I thought he was fooled. Top hand came off the bat. The only thing that worked for him was that he just dropped the barrel on the baseball and got it out front and lifted it just far enough away from Matt Kemp to get over. Oh, mercy.
Looked like strike. R.A. Dickey wanted it. Reyes makes his way to first base with a leadoff walk. Second one of those in as many innings for Dickey.
It's hard to frame a knuckleball, but Kurt did a great job of doing that on this pitch. I'm going to guess it was low. It wasn't a knuckleball. It was a pitch similar to the one that Bruce hit out.
Here's T.J. Rivera. Rivera playing for Lucas Duda, who's still out with a hyperextended elbow. That was close.
That was really a good move. Quick feet.
The Mets only have 9 stolen bases as a club. Reyes has 3 of them. He's back standing up this time.
The hard part naturally for Kurt Suzuki is catching the knuckleball. The even harder part is when there's a runner at first and he's trying to keep an eye on him too, and try to remember that job one is catch the ball first, and then if he is going, then figure out a way to get rid of it.
Closer at first. Freddie thought they might have gotten him.
Might have been going. Whoa. One of the drawbacks of being a right-handed first baseman.
What a save.
Right-handed first basemen have to catch the ball and take it to the tag, more or less. A left-hander can let the ball travel a little more. Travel right to the base. Nice play by Suzuki.
Back-to-back walks. And now Juan Lagares is coming up.
I don't know what was wrong with that pitch either.
And David Rackley's the man behind the plate. He's missed a couple perhaps. Let's see though if Lagares can help the cause by hitting into a double play. Lagares started the year on the disabled list. He had a left oblique problem. He was activated on April the 13th. From what I can gather, the last thing Terry Collins wanted to do with Curtis Granderson is prolong what's now a 1-for-29 slump. Them trying to hit Dickey's knuckler. Foul away, 0-2.
I think you're probably 100% right.
If you get Lagares, then you've got Harvey next. Well, 2 are on, nobody out. Game tied 2 apiece. Right back to the mound. There's one. There's two. Close play at first. For the moment, Reyes is at third. It's double play. The Mets, though, are going to take a look. And it looks like they're going to challenge the out call at first base.
Rivera with that huge lead at first was right on top of Phillips. Appeared to be safe.
We know Rivera's forced at second. The Mets are challenging the call at first. And it'll either be a runner at third with 2 outs or first and third with 1 out and Matt Harvey coming up.
Taking longer than I expected.
Yep. And the Mets get the call overturned. So Lagares will be at first on a forced play.
Yeah. Right call.
So you got a fast runner at first, a very fast runner at third, and Matt Harvey is in the box.
0 for 11 on the year.
He's bunting and took a strike.
Trust me, bunting a knuckleball is no easier than trying to hit it.
And Harvey didn't get that one. 0-2.
As I said.
Yep. Line and caught by Phillips. Another great leaping grab by Brandon.
So far, every attempt by R.A. Dickey to sneak a fastball or changeup by somebody hasn't worked.
That's the second out. And we go back to the top and Michael Conforto. He's walked and scored. Strike one.
Doubly important for Suzuki now with a runner at third to do everything he can to prevent that ball from getting back past him.
Fly ball toward left. That's slicing. And no play for Matt Kemp. Conforto now down to his last strike. Reyes ready. Lagares at first. Reyes at third. The 0-2 is whacked toward short. Dansby's got it. He's going to make the throw to first, and Dickey works away from back-to-back walks with nobody out. Impressive work.
Mets Braves locked in 2. Bottom of the second, we had a huge home run from Freeman. Matt Harvey, I need to do a better job of being ready. I appreciate that. I expected a pitch tomorrow. Had a big workout yesterday. You can read the rest of the quote. So he anticipated going tomorrow. I just want to say, guys, as a pitcher, you have your workout days. Use your biggest lift as the day after you pitch. You have a day off. Then you have another big workout day. Then you have a day off, relax, where you don't run a lot. You may play catch for 10 minutes, but you certainly don't lift. Then you go back to play. So this is a breakdown in communication for the Mets, and I just want to give a shout out to Matt Harvey for not ruining somebody else, taking the ball when he needed to, even though it wasn't his best outing against the Braves. It was very admirable for me that he took the ball and went after it. And yes, it's a big deal when you have to lift the day before you pitch. Guys, back to you.
And I don't think anybody was really critical of that, Paul, as much as making everybody aware of it afterwards. You know, I think that left a sour taste in everybody's mouth that he pitched poorly, and he went back to that and said, well, if I hadn't lifted yesterday. That's the only thing that I think was.
No, you make a good point. And, you know, that clubhouse, I don't want to make any team.
Threw it away. And Suzuki will reach to start the Atlanta second. Paul, go ahead.
I had that ball, by the way, too, if it was 2 feet to the left, guys. I was in position.
Good. Athletic position, always.
No, I agree with you, Joe. I do think that he could have done a better job of the interview after the game. I agree with that. The one thing that's really hard is we find out that morning you're going to start, and now if you don't start, you're going to put it on somebody else. It's very, very hard. So I love that he took the ball. I do agree with you. It could have been better. All those things aside, the Mets need to do a better job of communicating. They knew this beforehand, and that clubhouse is feeling the wrath of all of that right now. When you walk in there, it's like a morgue. Such high expectations, such a great starting staff. And a lot of these things could have been avoided with just simply better communication.
Well, let's go back a step, though, Paul, and I agree with you. Why in the world didn't Noah Syndergaard have an MRI? I mean, to me, that's the bigger issue in this whole thing. I mean, he said he felt great. Then he said the next day, I can't raise my arm above my shoulder. Something was amiss. And then he threw a bullpen, said he felt fine, came out throwing 100 miles an hour in the first inning of the start in which he eventually got hurt. But remember, Syndergaard was supposed to pitch in that series against the Braves and was skipped twice because something wasn't right.
I agree 100% with you, and that's what players on both sides, not calling out any names, have said to me is there's frustration on who's running the show. That sends a bad message. And as a former player, if your team encourages you to get MRI, you have nothing to lose. It's only going to show if you have something wrong, and it doesn't inhibit you from going on your next start unless you get an injection with dye for that MRI, which he didn't need to have his lat looked at. Another thing, too, he's 24 years old. He's not 38 that's experienced this reoccurring lat injury throughout his career and knows exactly what he needs to do. So a lot of the players were saying, hey, you're a young guy. They're trying to protect you. We want to win. You're an important part of our team. There's no reason you should say no to that MRI, especially if you're healthy.
Right. And had they had the MRI, might have prevented the more serious lat tear.
Well, think of the horrible position it puts the Mets in, and Terry Collins and Sandy Alderson, the general manager, who made the decision to allow Syndergaard to make his start. The player says he's fine. The player takes part in his bullpen, says he's fine. He comes out in the first inning and is throwing 100 miles an hour. That would lead me to believe, a rational person, yeah, he looks fine. But they'll never know.
No.
And that's the most difficult part, I would think. Besides the end result, runner goes, 3-2 pitch back, broken bat ground ball to Reyes. Low throw scooped out by Rivera. The Braves run and stay out of the double play. Suzuki at second, and R.A. Dickey is coming up. And the bigger picture, whether you like Syndergaard and the Mets or not, losing a player that talented is awful for the Mets. It is awful for the game. And our sport in the month of April has seen far too many guys either hurt or suspended.
Yeah, there's a lot of good storylines in baseball going on right now. There's a lot of interest in it. There's a lot of guys that are playing really well. So to lose a player of that caliber hurts. But like Sandy Alderson said, I can't cram him in the tube.
Right.
You know, I can't shove him in there. Well, that's a problem for the Mets to figure out.
Right. Braves are happy they don't have to face Syndergaard. They've got their hands full with Matt Harvey tonight. R.A. Dickey, the hitter, he's got 2 hits, 4 RBIs this year. Let's see if he can help himself. Outfield very shallow in center and right. And R.A. fouls it away, 0-2. Ground ball, Cabrera at short, and there's that take it easy jog by R.A. Dickey that you talked about. And there's the second out of the inning.
Yeah, I hope he didn't do anything to aggravate it. He had to talk to himself right there and remind himself not to do that, not to overextend it.
So R.A. couldn't move out of a tie with Adam Wainwright for the RBI lead among pitchers in the National League.
When I see him do that, it makes me think it is still nagging him. There is something there. He felt it and he knew to back off.
So a 2-out chance for Ender. He rolled out to short his first time up. Leadoff hit by Suzuki. He's at second, and a fly ball is walloped toward left center field. That ball is deep and down. Braves lead. Ender on his way to second. He's going to stop there. It's 3-2 Atlanta.
One of the hallmarks of Juan Lagares when he won a Gold Glove a couple of years ago was that he plays very shallow and can really go back on the ball. He's got great speed, but he gets burned here. Not sure that he would have gotten to that ball anyway. It was well placed between the 2 outfielders. 13 RBIs for Ender.
And a big 2-out pick-me-up for Atlanta. Suzuki scores the 3rd Braves run. Here's Brandon Phillips. He singled and scored. Brandon didn't get it. Strike 1. SunTrust is lively again tonight. Already 5 runs and 5 hits, and we're not out of the second.
I think it bears showing you again what we talked about with Matt Harvey before the game. Situational averages. Runners in scoring position, in this case 366, 2 out. Runner in scoring position 310. Big numbers.
Just missed the corner for Phillips. And Brandon now a 1-2 count.
Nobody holding Ender close. He was kind of waltzing off second base. No reason for him to really steal third, but it's almost like they're giving it to him.
Freeman and Kemp would love to follow here in the second. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Already 40 pitches for Matt Harvey. Had one of his best games as a big leaguer at Turner Field, June 18th, 2013. He struck out 13 Braves that day. Game 1 of a doubleheader. Ground ball toward third. Reyes to his right takes a peek at the baseball, and the toss across in time to retire the side. Ender Inciarte with an RBI double with 2 outs gives Atlanta its first lead of the game.
It's time now for
is brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. And by Delta Airlines.
Braves have come back from a 2-run deficit. They now lead 3-2. Homer by Freddie Freeman, a hit by Ender Inciarte, and R.A. Dickey gets set for the third. Cabrera, Bruce, and Neil Walker are coming up. Cabrera struck out in the first and takes inside. Had Jose Reyes not started to get hot, I'm guessing there was some discussion about what to do with him and what to do with the makeup of this Mets infield defense, which has had its share of problems. The Mets have a kid in the minor leagues named Ahmad Rosario, who might be their top prospect. He's hitting .409 with a .452 on base percentage as a shortstop at AAA. Obviously, he's not here. Here's the 3-0 pitch, which is in for a strike. They could move this guy, Cabrera, have him play third base. If Walker continued to struggle, Reyes could go back and play second. That is if they brought the kid shortstop up. As this one's hit in the air deep toward right field, Markakis will admire that one as it sails to the back row of the chop house. Asdrubal Cabrera has hit a leadoff home run, and the Mets have tied it up. His third on a 3-1 pitch.
He took a fastball for a strike, 3-0. But didn't take that one.
So here's Jay Bruce, the first Met to homer tonight.
You would expect Rosario then to be probably the next guy called up if something happens to anyone, where they can move their infielders around like dominoes, shuffle them around.
They've been doing that already this year with all the injuries they've had.
Yeah, we haven't talked about David Wright.
Fly ball shallow center. Dansby drifts out. Ender joins him, and Swanson puts it away for the first out. And that to me is another real sad story for our sport. David Wright, the captain of the Mets, great guy, great interview, loves to play, plays hard, represents the Mets so well. We saw him taking batting practice in New York before the first game of the season. I didn't see David when we were in New York last time. And I don't know if there's any expectation for David Wright to come back this year. That's a shame.
Let's hope there is. Let's hope there's some rest and relaxation that is helping him get better and he's able to come back. I know Terry Collins told me that, you know, the latest issue has been more neck related instead of back, and that he just didn't have any strength trying to swing the bat, or even in batting practice at the beginning of spring training. He just had no strength in his swing.
Little dribbler. Dickey will field and bobble, and that'll cost him. Neil Walker will reach with one out. Not sure what happened to R.A. there.
Why not pick it up with the glove? Why is there a need? Well, his foot slipped. That was one reason. That's his right foot right here, just slipping right into the baseball. That was the biggest issue, so never mind.
Darno, the batter, he struck out to end the first. The mental image I have of David Wright as a hitter was the great opposite field power that he had.
Right center.
And if he doesn't have that, then with all due respect, he's not David Wright.
Well, he had a ton of homers in his career against the Braves.
1 ball, no strikes. Fly ball left. Kemp will retreat a step or two. And look at where Ender Inciarte is on that play.
Yeah, the first play, the first out of this inning, that pop up out behind second base. There probably were a couple of anxious moments for Dansby, because you know Ender is coming, and he's coming hard. He usually gets to that ball, calls the infielders off, but because Bruce popped it up, he was playing a little deeper and couldn't get there. So Dansby's backing up. He doesn't hear anything, never hears anything, and makes the catch.
Reyes walked and was left at third base, and Suzuki got a piece of that. Ball 1. Reyes thought it was low and outside. A lot of grumbling with the strike zone of David Ratcliffe.
He can't grumble too much. He got a couple of pitches called balls when he was up the first time that easily could have been strikes.
Tapper. Dickey used the glove, sets his feet and fires to first, and that'll retire the side as Drupal Cabrera ties it with a homer. Freddie Freeman tied it with a homer in the first inning. It went 422 feet. He'll get things started in the Atlanta third. We're tied up. Freddie Freeman goes to work and fouls the first pitch away and scared the daylights out of Matt Kemp in the process on the on-deck circle. I'm not sure if the SunTrust Park tape measure has been fully vetted. They said his home run in the first went 422 feet.
Right. Hit it right in somebody's onions.
Yes, exactly right. One-two pitch. That's scorched toward left center. Lagares got a great jump and makes the grab for out number one. For comparison, they said Asdrubal Cabrera's home run went 428 feet. I think the SunTrust Park home run measuring person is secretly a Mets fan.
Could be. Could be. Although, you know, Cabrera's was over there to right center more. Freddie's was right down the line. Whoever caught it out there was a great catch by someone who threw it right back in. Almost, I could have held him to a double.
Yeah. Well, the ball was obviously defective. That's why they didn't want to have further issues in the game tonight. As Matt Kemp digs in with one out, and he drives one towards center. Lagares is there again. 2 outs.
He's got him played right.
That's a Gold Glover out there for New York. But as you mentioned last night, he just has had the injury bug make his career really unlucky.
Yeah, it's not the glove, it's his arm. Throwing arm. Elbow and shoulder issues.
Two quick outs. Some of Harvey's best pitches came with Nick Markakis in the batter's box. A couple of wicked breaking balls. One of them struck him out. Back out of play, foul. It's 1-2.
I will say this, when there's a ball that's well struck, there's already a great sound to that crack of the bat in this ballpark. I love it.
No swing. And an even count. Adonis Garcia looks on as Markakis is down on the same pitch that got him in the first inning. And Matt Harvey has the first 1-2-3 inning in tonight's game 2. 17 returns with fast-paced pick-up-and-play MLB action packed with all your favorite MLB teams, players, ballparks, and much more. Get RBI Baseball today for Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and mobile devices. Learn more at rbigame.com. Chip and Joe with you from SunTrust Park. Paul Bird reporting from the Braves dugout. 3-3 after 3. R.A. Dickey to work with the bottom of the Mets lineup card coming up here in the top of the 4th. T.J. Rivera walked and was forced out at second base in the second inning. And he's behind 0-2. In the air to right, Markakis charges and slides to a stop after making a nice catch. Rivera out on a sinking line drive, 1 away.
Some good defense turned in by outfielders from both sides. Good read off the bat by Nick.
I asked Nick before the game his impressions of how the ballpark plays. And he had a couple of interesting observations. We'll see if they bear out tonight. Ground ball to second. Phillips will take care of Lagares, who hustles and is out by a step. 2 away. We've commented on all the home runs that have been hit here. Now 22 of them in 8 games and 3 innings. Nick's impression is that early in the game, before the sun goes down, it is very lively. A lot of wind, balls blowing all over the place, almost as if there's a vacuum in the center field tunnel area that's just pulling balls out, especially to right center and center field here. What he has noticed as well, though, is once the sun sets and it kind of cools off, that it becomes much more stable ballpark.
I had asked him during the first homestand about reading balls off the bat, and he said he was getting used to it, but it's different. Anytime you go into a new stadium, trying to get your depth perception figured out with ball off the bat and the different levels of the stadium. Got a nice read on that line drive from Lagares, or excuse me, from Rivera.
I asked him, does this compare at all to Baltimore and Oriole Park at Camden Yards? And his response was interesting. He said, the ballpark in Baltimore is built below street level, so it's always humid there. It's wet. And in the heat of the summer in Baltimore, the ball will fly, but it's not the home run hitting friendly place that you think it would be. Good inning for R.A. Dickey, his first perfect frame. And here come the Braves in the 4th. concert at SunTrust Park on Saturday, June 10th with country musician Jake Owen. And for just $20, get a VIP field pass to enjoy the concert up close on the field. Go to Braves.com/Jake Owen and get your tickets and field passes today. Now it's time for our unlimited baseball break, brought to you by T-Mobile. Big series in Detroit, the Indians and the Tigers. Last year, Cleveland had their way with Detroit as they rolled through the AL Central.
Yeah, Detroit's got to even that up a little bit. And Dallas Keuchel pitching for Houston, off to a great start, leads the major leagues in wins and innings, trying to repeat his Cy Young season.
And we will see the Astros on our next road trip. Head back to Minute Maid Park.
Astros in Texas got after it a little bit last night, huh?
Sure did. That was another series that was won handily last year by the Rangers. Head to head. And they're back at it tonight. Texas, I believe, has an early lead, but Cole Hamels couldn't start. He's been sent back to Dallas. He's got an oblique or a side issue that they have to check out. Upstairs for Garcia, 2 balls and a strike as the Braves come up here in the 4th.
I think everybody, any Braves fan, would remember the confrontation between Brian McCann and Carlos Gomez when he was with Milwaukee a few years ago at Turner Field. When Brian refused to let him cross home plate after Lopez had styled on a home run. Well, they got reacquainted last night. Different uniforms.
Pop fly foul out of play. That has turned out to be, I think, one of the better rivalries that a lot of people in baseball don't talk much about. Texas and Houston, they play every year, I think, for the Silver Boot, which is their trophy in Texas. And smoked into center field by Garcia. Adonis has picked up the pace at the plate. And that's his first hit in 2 tries, and that snaps Harvey's run of 4 straight hitters retired.
4-seamer. Got some extension on it, right back where it came from. You know, that goes to something you've talked about a lot, Chip, and that is geographic realignment and the rivalry that Texas and Houston has created, with Houston moving to the American League, and how exciting that is for fans in that area, and how great it could be if you did the same thing with some other interstate, or, and in the case of the New York teams, intercity rivals.
Yeah, could you imagine Suzuki bats if you had the Cubs and the White Sox, Dodgers and Yankees, Angels and Dodgers, Angels, Yankees, Mets, Cubs, White Sox playing in their respective divisions, facing off 15 times.
Yeah. Cardinals, Royals.
Be fantastic. No balls and a strike for Kurt Suzuki. Well, when Commissioner Rob Manfred was here, we asked him that very question about expansion. We asked him about realignment, and there's, I'm guessing, talk that perhaps some sort of realignment at some point will take place, if not expansion too. But personally, I'd like to see alignment, not just geographic, but economic. Runner goes, the pitch hit him. Suzuki tried to check his swing and couldn't get out of the way and got drilled. Harvey wants to know if that pitch was swung on or fouled away, and he's just now getting up after he got splattered.
I think he got hit right in the abdomen. It was like a hit and run play. So he was going to try and swing and make sure he had the plate covered, and he stepped right into this. Yeah, right in the ribs.
Oh.
Oh man, you don't see that happen very often. But again, I think it was an effort to make sure he was going to put the ball in play.
Now what the Mets saw in that play was Suzuki on the check swing contort and flip the bat out of his hands, and Matt Harvey and the Mets are saying that Suzuki offered that pitch. And I'm sure the Mets want to ensure that the ball wasn't tipped. And I think that's what Terry Collins was asking Larry Vanover. Was there a foul ball in that play? They heard something. What they heard was the ball hitting Kurt Suzuki right in the breadbasket.
Yeah.
Wow.
Shortstop number 7, Dansby Swanson.
Can't imagine it didn't knock the wind out of him in the process.
Next time up, Kurt might wear the chest protector under his shirt, not over it.
Right.
So 2 on, nobody out here in the Braves' 4th. Chance for Dansby Swanson to advance the runners. Let's see what he can do. He bounced out his first time up. Off the plate, ball 1. Yeah, my expansion idea would have 2 divisions with some smaller market teams. The other ones would have bigger markets. You could do it geographically and economically. Baseball would have 2 small market teams in the playoffs every year, which would be great for the game. But Commissioner Manfred said, I don't think there are any plans to do that. And Rob, I love you, but you're wrong. So that's that.
It has merit.
It's not been an easy night for Matt Harvey. 1-1-2-3 inning. He's thrown 63 pitches, and he's back in the soup here in the 4th. And time called very late. You had Garcia dancing around at second. Walker came in to try to keep him close, and as Harvey got ready to make his pitch to the plate, time was called, and he delivered anyway.
Well, that was a good call by Swanson, because with Adonis standing on second base, he was going to have to take the pitch anyway, and by calling time, he avoided perhaps taking another strike.
Knee high and a beauty at 95 miles an hour.
He's had much better life on the fastball. It's coming out of his hand a lot better tonight. Darno wasn't sure he had that one.
R.A. Dickey is next. Full count.
Good take on that pitch. Send him. Send him, Snit. Got the pitcher on deck. He's having a conversation with Brian Snitker right now. Dansby might find a hole here.
Doesn't have to. A single, a hit batsman, and now a walk brings up R.A. Dickey. And it also brings out Dan Warthen, the Mets pitching coach. Wonder if that hit batsman has unnerved the Mets right-hander.
The pitcher number 19, R.A. Dickey.
One thing you like about R.A. Dickey is puts ball in play. 11 at bats. He's only struck out twice. What you don't want is for him to line into a double play. But
what you don't want him to do is put it in play right back to the pitcher.
Correct.
He's had a few of those slow rollers.
But he knows Matt Harvey. And he knows the situation. A chance to put himself back in front here. Let's see what R.A. Dickey does. He rolled out to shortstop his first time up. High hopper. That's going to get the job done. Harvey will make the peg to first. Dickey has his 5th RBI this year, and that's as productive an out as you're going to see him make in that spot. Not only does he bring in a run, the other 2 runners can advance, and now the top of the order is due.
That was just about as good as it could be. And if he had a good set of legs under him and wasn't one that wasn't injured from the quad strain, he might have beat that out.
So R.A. Dickey has 5 RBIs. So here's Ender with 1 out. And out of play. R.A. Dickey had a 10 RBI year with the Mets. So, heck, he's on pace to drive in 30 this year.
Once again, here's Harvey with that situation, though. Runners in scoring position. High batting average against. Let's see what Ender can do.
Right guy at the right time for Atlanta. Ender Inciarte, our Zaxby's indescribably good play.
7-game streak updated with his double tonight. 345 mark. Checking those outfielders where he split them last time up. They are playing shallow. Conforto especially in left.
That surprises me that they're that shallow.
Me too. I know Lagares can go get him. I'm not sold that Conforto can from where he's playing. But he may be great going back on the ball, and I just don't know that.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Here it is. Line drive into right center field. That's down for a hit. Here comes Dansby around third. Bruce will have the throw cut off, and Ender Inciarte dumps a single into right field, and the Braves have a 3-run 4th inning and now lead 6-3.
And another 3 RBI night for Ender. He's moved into a tie for the team lead in RBIs with Mr. Freeman and Mr. Kemp. Good read on this by Dansby Swanson, who saw that it was going to drop, so he didn't hesitate.
6-3 Atlanta. We're in the 4th. Brandon Phillips, the batter. He is singled and scored.
Sixth game out of the last 7 where the Braves have scored 5 or more.
Love it. That's driven down the line and out of play. As the weather's warmed up, so have the Braves bats.
.320 team average has moved them up to 3rd place in the National League, at least in the batting average category.
New York's bullpen begins to work as Harvey comes set. And he pulled that one off the plate. 1 ball, 1 strike.
I don't understand that target. Darno wanted the pitch away and he delivered it there, but he was set up so far off the plate with the target that there's no way you're going to get the call, and you're not even going to get Phillips to offer. If you want it away, set up, you know, near the corner somewhere where you might get the call somehow.
One ball, two strikes. To first. Rivera, nice play. Inciarte and a rundown. They've got to tag him because the force play is taken away. Inciarte will finally be run down to the second base bag, and that retires the side. Atlanta scores 3 times, 2 hits, a hit batsman and a walk. It's 6-3 heading to the 5th. SunTrust Park, and another live look in on our Xfinity cam.
Wish you were here. Braves leading. Ender Inciarte. I was moving him in for a tie for RBI lead, and I gave him 1 too many. He's 1 behind those other 2 guys. He's got 15.
So R.A. Dickey now with a much more comfortable lead of 3 runs. He'll face the top of the Mets order: Conforto, Cabrera, and Jay Bruce. R.A. Dickey, lifetime 3-0 against the Mets. And a foul ball back to the screen makes it no balls, 2 strikes. We understand we're having some video problems. Our great Fox Sports crew is working on those. We'll get those pictures back up to you just as soon as we can. Dickey into his wide, and now the 0-2 pitch is lined into right field, and Marquez will play that on a 1 hop. And Michael Conforto, with that sweet swing of his, has his first hit of the game and is aboard for the 2nd time.
I'm a little disappointed, because I really thought when you started doing more radio play-by-play here, you would say hello again, everybody. But you didn't.
Well, you know, that is only reserved for the announcing greats, and until Dirk Savage shows up, there's no way.
Josh.
Excuse me, oh, Josh. Well,
yeah, Dirk was his cousin.
Right. Sorry. When Josh Savage shows up, then we'll break out the hello again, everybody. Cabrera hit a questionable 428-foot home run in the 3rd inning. It was really 421. but it counted nevertheless. He's also struck out.
Let's go, radio man.
Oh, the pictures are back, we're told.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Nobody told me. Yeah, I was just waiting on you to. Let's go.
Lighten up, Francis. 2 balls, no strikes.
Nobody tells me anything.
And that's a little low. Ball 3. Phillies and Cubs tied 1-1 in the 3rd inning. No, take that back. Cubs just scored. It's 2-1 in the 3rd. Phillies walloped them yesterday in Chicago. Brewers and Cardinals, no score in the 4th inning. St. Louis is coming into town this weekend. SunTrust Park should be packed to the gills with Braves and Cardinals fans. Cardinal Nation travels well. And that one's way off the plate. Cabrera walks on 4 pitches, and now you've got trouble. Here's Bruce.
4 walks.
Won't know until after the game. Can only guess that the leg's altering a few things for Dickey tonight.
It's his left leg, his front leg, as he works. And when he kicks his leg in the air, that might be painful every time.
Part of the challenge of a knuckleball pitcher on your staff is, as we've said so many times, tough to control an opponent's running game. You got wild pitches, pass balls to deal with. But you also have to deal with walks because of the fluttering nature of that pitch. Most walks allowed by Dickey in a game is 6. He's done that twice. He has 4 tonight, and nobody out in the 5th. Popped up. Dansby out for a moment. Ender is there and makes the play. There's one bullet dodged. Bruce skies out to straightaway center, 1 away.
RA's at bat with the bases loaded. Off the plate. And he was favoring that gingerly down the line. So as I suspected earlier, that's still bothering him.
Well, let's get him through 5 and see how the Braves want to play it. First, Neil Walker. Walker tapped back to the mound, hit a dribbler down the first base line. R.A. made the play but lost his footing and couldn't get Walker at first. Line Phillips, short hop, bobbles, flips to Dansby, and that's all Atlanta gets. So Cabrera's out at second, Conforto to third, Walker at first with 2 out.
The runners weren't sure if he was going to catch that in the air or not, so nobody was going to there was going to be no trouble doubling them up. But Brandon couldn't come up with it cleanly.
Darno is struck out and flied out. He's the Mets' 5th place hitter. Good stop by Suzuki. That big glove saved him there.
Sometimes it's just a stab in the dark.
High strike, even count. Right on by, 2 balls, 2 strikes.
He struck out d'Arnaud in the first inning on a high knuckleball.
Mets runners at the corners. Conforto at third, Walker at first, and d'Arnaud drives one toward right. Nick is there, and he makes another great diving catch.
What timing.
That saved one and maybe more. If it gets by him, the Mets would have been in business. But Nick Markakis with a sliding catch robs d'Arnaud and sends us to the home 5th with a 3-run lead. Freeman. It's also time for our Yellowwood bringing the lumber.
Again. Slider down and in, golfed right into the H&F burger joint. There have been times in baseball where people have said, oh, wipe the mustard off that guy. Well, there was a case where you needed to wipe the mustard off the ball.
422-foot blast by Freddie Freeman. 10 homers, 16 RBIs now, and still hitting .500 in his home park. Harvey missed low, ball 2. Harvey wanted that call, didn't get it. 3-0. See if he has a green light. We'll never know. 4-pitch walk. Freeman aboard to start the 5th. Harvey hasn't exactly been dazzling either. That's his 3rd walk.
To go with a hit batsman.
Mentioned that great game that Matt pitched against the Braves at Turner Field in 2013. That was only one half of what turned out to be a spectacular story for the Mets that day. Zach Wheeler made his big league debut in game 2, you might recall, and threw 6-something scoreless innings at the Braves. In the second game, which was a wonderful foreshadowing of what was to come for the New York Mets. And we will see Mr. Wheeler here on Thursday. His first start against the Braves, I think, since coming back from Tommy John surgery.
Against the Braves, it is.
1 ball, no strikes for Matt Kemp. Matt missed high. Harvey's missed with 6 in a row.
Pitch count at 82. Threw a lot of pitches last inning.
Bounced foul past third. Matt missed a double by inches. 2-1 the count. Fun matchup here tomorrow night. Bartolo Colon and Jacob deGrom. deGrom has been very tough on the Braves, and it's always a treat to watch Bartolo pitch. Toward third again and foul again.
Showed you what Inciarte has done over his 7-game hitting streak. Matt Kemp has hit in 4 straight. 8 for his last 18 coming into today's game. And his last 7, 4 and 12 for him.
Swing and a rocket hit toward Conforto and left, but he's going to catch it. And there's the first out.
Good thing he was playing deeper that time.
And here's Nick Markakis. Ken Harvey's made his best pitches tonight against the Braves right fielder.
I agree. He has thrown some real good fastballs to Nick, but primarily it's that down and in slider that's had his number. It's a situation where if you're Nick, you'd like to see that pitch because you might be able to pull a ground ball through the hole on the right side.
No balls and a strike. Fought it off. And that's into the seats. Great catch by a fan from Sandy Springs, Georgia.
Well done, sir, even if you've got a Mets shirt on.
No balls, 2 strikes.
Look at that target. I mean, that's like the one last inning.
Well,
I don't know
what does that do?
I don't know what purpose it serves. He wanted the fastball up. Okay, well then stay behind the plate and throw one up above the strike zone. But look how far he is set up outside. The umpires, there's no way he's going to even look at that pitch, and neither's the hitter. So it's a wasted pitch that had no purpose.
As a hitter, can you see the catcher or sense the catcher setting up that far outside?
I would think Nick might be able to out of the corner of his eye when he goes that far out.
So you know that.
I mean, especially the way Travis was jumping out
right.
there.
So you know not to swing.
Well, at least you're looking in the right way, in the right direction.
1-2 count. High fly ball toward right. Bruce retreats, and there's the second out. Adonis has a single and a run scored. R.A. Dickey brought him home last time up. So look under uniform pants of Garcia at the left knee. I'm not sure if I saw a pad on that left knee or not. That's the knee that he fouled a ball off last night.
I'd have one.
No balls and a strike. Harvey's still throwing hard. That's his calling card. 96 miles an hour on his 92nd pitch.
See that concession stand up there? That's where they teach you how to throw the cutter. It's called the potato cutter. And if some of our pitchers come up with the potato cutter, we'll walk away with the division.
I like it.
Unhittable.
Or you could say unmashable.
There's cutters, and then there's potato cutters.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Out of play. Been a little slow with the fan identification here in the new ballpark. Been studying the seating chart.
Have you?
And the fan behavior charts. Yeah, it's taken a little while to get used to the
I'm sure
new configuration. I mean, that guy that caught the foul ball a second ago was obviously from Sandy Springs. That one was easy to call, but maybe by the end of the homestand we'll have a much better landscape of where the fans are from. So bear with us as this one's popped up toward first, and a fan from the Bronx will make the catch. That's TJ Rivera. The side is retired. We head to the 6th. Atlanta leads it. It's 6-3.
As we head into the 6th inning, and welcome back into our set here in the Battery Atlanta. I'm Kelsey Wingert with this Xfinity game break. So let's get you out to the Indians versus the Tigers. Bottom 3, Tigers up 1. Miguel Cabrera activated off the DL today, and he goes deep in his first game back. A 2-run shot to left center off of Corey Kluber. That was number 450 of his career, breaking a tie with Bagwell and Guerrero for 38th in MLB history. It's currently 5-2 Tigers in the bottom of the 6th inning. Chip and Joe, back to y'all.
Not a surprise, Kelsey, that Miguel Cabrera comes back from the disabled list and does something spectacular at the plate.
How Chipper Jones of him. Come back from the DL and launch one.
So Jose Reyes leads off for the Mets and takes a strike for an even count. And the Tigers 13-12, only a game out of first place in a very tightly packed AL Central race. 4 teams separated by a game. The Royals are 5.5 games back and in last place. Here it's 6-3 Atlanta. Reyes slaps one toward third. Adonis in between. Hop found it and fired it. Good play. 1 out.
He had no choice but to do what he did. He's going to get an in-between hop, and if he lays back and waits for a good hop, then Reyes beats it out. Short hop, his pitcher ducked to get out of the way. No trouble.
So call him R.A. Ducky. Adonis almost picked him off. 1 out for TJ Rivera. And a strike. By the way, what is the potato cutter? Does anybody know? Has anybody on our crew had the potato cutter yet?
Well, you hold it just a little off center.
Well, that's easy for us. Up and in. And Rivera got hit by a pitch. Well, it doesn't surprise me. Our great director, Mike Miller, immediately told me what it is.
Okay.
It's a French fry concession.
Okay.
Number 12,
Lagares is coming up.
Suzuki's probably saying to Rivera, really? You're going to go to first on that one?
Yeah, you should be embarrassed, right? Chuck Hernandez is going to come out and talk with R.A. Dickey. This is going to buy some time for the Atlanta bullpen. You've got Lagares, then Harvey's spot is due. And at 92 pitches with that sore quad and a reasonably warm night and a lot of high stress pitches, you can understand this mental and physical break for the moment.
Yeah, and I think this is a good time for the trip because it's Lagares. If he can retire him, he can probably stay in the game to pitch to the pitcher unless they pinch hit for him, which they probably would. But then you could make a decision at that point.
Lagares is 0 for 2. And R.A. wanted the call, didn't get it. There's been a lot of unhappiness from Harvey, the hitters, and R.A. Dickey with the strike zone tonight. That one in the dirt. Nice play to keep it in front. Ball 2. In all likelihood, Harvey's night is done.
Plawecki's out, getting loose in the on deck circle. Good pitch.
Did you face many knuckleballers in your day?
Charlie Huff was really about the only one I can think of.
Double play ball. Flip to Phillips. Strong throw. And R.A. Dickey finishes the 6th with a flourish. The meeting worked to perfection. The Braves get Lagares and get back to work with a 3-run lead.
I make a pretty mean spaghetti. Spaghetti is kind of my thing. A little stir fry, some fried chicken. My wife and I actually got into Homeland recently and we have been completely addicted to it.
Love those little features. Meet your Braves. And Kurt Suzuki will lead things off. You know, we sort of poked fun at Rivera a moment ago. As Kevin Plawecki checks in, he'll take over behind the plate. Matt Harvey another inning. He'll try to buy one for the Mets with his spot due up in the 7th. It goes without saying that Kurt Suzuki's really lucky. He got hit right in the breadbasket with a pitch in the low 90s in his last at bat. Can't imagine how painful that was. as this one's dribbled to the left side. Reyes with a bare hand makes a nice play to get the Braves catcher for the first out. If that ball nicks the bottom of his rib, talking about a real problem, and a real painful problem,
right?
And maybe even obviously more painful than just being hit with a live ball.
Bad enough as it was.
And that doesn't count all the punishment he takes on his own behind the plate and all the effort he's got to make in just trying to corral a knuckleball. I mean, that's
rough night.
A rough night indeed.
Yeah.
Here's Dansby. Dansby's been on base in 9 straight games. He scored a run after walking in the 4th. And this one's grounded toward short. Cabrera dives. Can't get it out of his glove. And Dansby's going to have an infield hit. Seems to me Joey's making more and more contact.
More. I don't want to make this sound like he hadn't been hitting the ball hard. We know he has been, and had some tough luck. But he is hitting it with some authority and finding some spots. I think he's had better balance. That was a good quick swing. More hands. Not as much body.
And Emilio Bonifacio is going to hit for R.A. Dickey, who went 6 strong innings, allowed 3 runs, 2 of them in the first inning. And a line drive to left for Bonifacio. So the Braves bench, which got off to such a slow start, is now starting to come around. That's the 8th Braves pinch hit. And it's the first pinch hit this year for Bonifacio. And that's going to be the end of the line for Matt Harvey. He gives up back-to-back hits here in the Atlanta 6th, with the Mets down by a 6-3 score. So a disappointing outing for Matt Harvey. He's allowed 6 runs so far. He leaves trailing 6-3. This Atlanta onslaught over the last week or so, and Ender Inciarte has been in the middle of it again tonight.
Braves are 2 for 6 with runners in scoring position, and both hits have come from Ender tonight. Just double into left center, plated 1 run, and then in the 4th inning, behind in the count, he got a piece of this slider down and in, and drove in 2 more.
Another good night for Ender Inciarte, our SunTrust Confidence Play of the Game. And he'll take aim at Mets left-hander Josh Edgin.
12th game for Edgin, hard thrower, low 90s cutter, slider. Worked an inning last night. Actually, just a 1/3 of an inning. Got the 1 batter he was brought in to face. That was Markakis.
Line drive into center field, a base hit. Here comes Swanson around 3rd. Lagares with his throw. It's on target, and it's in time. A beautiful throw gets Dansby Swanson at the plate. But a 3-hit game for Inciarte, and that's the 2nd out of the inning.
Lagares charged that. I told you already that he plays shallow, so he didn't have very far to throw this ball, but put it right on the money for Plawecki, who was behind the plate and made the tag. No signs of a sore arm or bad arm there from Lagares.
That was a rocket. Third hit of the inning, but the Braves down to their last out. Brandon Phillips, the batter. He's 1 for 3 with a run scored. 9 more hits for the Braves in the game. No balls and a strike. On 1 for Phillips. Swinging a high fly ball to shallow right. Bruce comes charging in, and he makes the play. Great throw by Juan Lagares. Erases Dansby Swanson at the plate. And we're off to the 7th with the Braves ahead 6-3.
It's time for the dance battle game.
About it on tonight's game summary, brought to you by Publix. Freddie Freeman, a long home run, 3 more hits for Ender Inciarte, and the great performance from R.A. Dickey, sore-legged and all. Joe, R.A. drove in a run and pitched 6 strong innings.
Yeah, he's tougher than a boot. Go out there and pitch the way he did tonight and put the ball in play and get another RBI, knowing his leg was bothering him. But it's his game to win if the bullpen can hang on there, hang on to the lead, and Jose Ramirez the first guy out of the pen.
Curtis Granderson will greet him as a pinch hitter. And a blistering strike at the knees. What a change for the Mets hitters. You go from the fluttering knuckleball of R.A. Dickey to the mid-90s heat of Jose Ramirez. Braves might be getting another flamethrower in their bullpen in the next week or so. As Curtis skies one toward left, Kemp will put that in his back pocket. Granderson's 1 for his last 30. Plan tonight was for Mauricio Cabrera to throw an inning of relief with Gwinnett. The next step in his hopeful return to the big leagues is to pitch in back-to-back games. Once that happens, and if he comes out of those appearances in good shape, there's a chance we might have him back in the Atlanta bullpen by the end of this homestand, if not when we resume play down in Houston. So we'll wish Mauricio well tonight.
Absolutely. Be great to get him back.
Conforto, first pitch swing, bouncing ball to Freeman. He'll take it to the bag. That's easy. 2 outs.
Ramirez has been outstanding, though. He's only given up runs, and it was 2 runs in 1 outing, and that was the blown save at Pittsburgh way back on April 9th. He has not allowed a run since, and 1, 2, 3, 8 outings, and only 1 hit in those 8 outings. That's pretty good.
As Drupal Cabrera tries to stare him down in the 7th. He struck out, homered, and walked. He swings the first pitch and flies to center. A very easy inning for Ramirez. 3 quick outs. We head to the 7th inning stretch after 5 pitches. Freddie Freeman gets ready to add to an Atlanta lead, which stands at 6-3.
Years of Spanish at LSU. Why is that important? So that I can pronounce Los Bravos. That's correct. On September 17th, the Braves will have Los Bravos Day, where they will wear those jerseys, and they unveiled those today in a fantastic ceremony where John Sherholtz even spoke some Spanish. And there you see Eddie Perez and Javi Lopez showing off the new jerseys. Take some pictures with Copy, Derek Schiller. And the next thing you know, we're rolling, guys, in a big ceremony with a lot of good music, big bands, and some good food. Kicking it off. Back to you guys, Chip and Joe.
I know you don't miss an opportunity with good food.
I did crush some salsa.
Attaboy.
Yes. So a little spicy, but I'm okay.
Well, speaking of crushing, that's what Freddie Freeman's doing to the baseball in his home park. Freddie Freeman's batting .500 at SunTrust Park this year. A first inning 422-foot home run tied the game at 2. And Josh Smoker is on in relief. He's the 3rd Mets pitcher, and like so many Mets, he's been busy, and unfortunately he's been battered around a bit. Ground ball into the shift. Walker from the outfield grass makes the play for the first out.
Smoker's the guy from Georgia we talked about when we were in New York. Gave up race car driving to work some more on his pitching. Former first-round pick by the Nationals, wasn't it?
Yes, and just kept getting hurt. But he's healthy now and contributing in the Mets bullpen. They'll face Matt Kemp. Matt with a 4-game hit streak on the line, and he'll extend it on the first pitch.
He can turn around 95-mile-an-hour gas quicker than anybody. Boy, oh boy. On time.
And the Braves have 6 runs on 10 hits again tonight.
Good pitch, too.
So counting tonight, 7 games, the Braves have scored 50 runs, 81 hits, and hitting over 340 with runners in scoring position. Tonight is the 9th time Atlanta's recorded double digits in hits. There's a shot down the right field line. That's going to get down and rattle around in the corner. Matt Kemp on his way to third. He'll stop after Markakis doubles with 1 out. So Nick gets in on the fun with his 7th double. And Braves runners are at second and third with only 1 out.
He just had to get the right-hander out of there. Get the lefty in. Had a rough time with Harvey, but breaks this pitch from Smoker.
Braves have been jumping all over first pitches from Smoker in his limited time on the mound tonight.
Markakis had his 6-game hitting streak snapped last night, but that's his 7th double.
Terry Collins will go to his bullpen again. Adonis Garcia is the hitter. We'll tell you who the next pitcher will be in a moment.
Is brought to you by your local Toyota dealer. Let's go places. And SunTrust.
Big night for the Braves. 6 more runs, 11 more hits. R.A. Dickey has the lead. Braves are trying to extend that advantage here in the bottom of the 7th inning. Braves fans, join us here at SunTrust Park Friday, June 9th for Bartolo Colon Bobblehead Night. That's presented by Coca-Cola. The first 20,000 fans will walk away with their very own bobblehead of the Big Sexy himself. Go to Braves.com/tickets and get your seats today. Big Sexy Bartolo Colon faces the Mets here tomorrow night in Game 3.
And the Braves will face Fernando Salas, who's in now for the Mets. And boy, has he had a rough go of it. His last 3 outings, he did not retire a batter against the Phillies, 3 hits and a run. Then against the Braves, an inning, 3 hits, 2 runs. And his last outing against Washington a couple of days ago, 2 walks, 2 hits, 3 runs allowed in 1 inning. That split finger pitch not moving much.
Mets have to be concerned, Joe, not only with the state of their starting rotation with Syndergaard out now, but the state of their bullpen. They have made a lot of appearances already in the first month and 2 days now.
It's kind of a double-edged sword, isn't it, Chip, when your starting pitching is your pride and joy. So you really try to do the best you can to protect it and not let these guys throw too many pitches or overdo it. So you go to your bullpen to maybe a little early to save on their arms. Meanwhile, the guys in the bullpen are worn out, and it's May 1.
Let's have 3 pitchers in the top 10 in appearances in relief, and it's May 2nd.
They've had a lot of work, and another thing too in defense of Terry Collins is they didn't have Familia, so some of those guys were forced into other roles, and early in the season working more to try to protect leads and wins.
Yeah, I'm in no way suggesting that they've been mismanaged. I'm merely pointing out that the circumstances are not at all what the Mets expected to have happen over the first month.
I think it goes 100% to their starting pitching not being as good as they expected it to be, or anybody expected it to be, and certainly not as healthy. One ball, 2 strikes.
Up the middle, infield in. That's going to cost the Mets 1 run perhaps. And Lagares will run it back into the infield as Adonis Garcia bangs a single up the middle and brings home Matt Kemp, and the Braves extend the lead to 7-3.
There again, part of the reason why Salas has been struggling. A high splitter. And Adonis just continues to do good things. Another RBI for him.
Kurt Suzuki has a hit. He has been hit, and he scored 2 runs. And to put the Mets pitching situation in perspective with regards to their starters, it really is a mind-boggling number. In the first month and 2 days of this season, DeGrom, Gesellman, Harvey, Syndergaard, and Zach Wheeler have combined for 6 wins.
That's hard to believe.
And Harvey's on the short end of tonight's decision, 7-3. Now, of that group of 5 Met starters, DeGrom far and away, as far as the ERA is concerned, has pitched the best. He's got a 2.84 ERA, 44 strikeouts, 11 walks, and 95 swings and misses on pitched balls so far this year. And that's who the Braves will face tomorrow night.
Salas pitched great for the Mets last year after they acquired him. They just can't figure out what it's going to take to get him on track.
Two balls, no strikes. And high, ball 3. Kurt made him throw a strike, and he did. Braves run here in the 7th belongs to Josh Smoker. Salas facing his second man, gives up a line drive that's headed for the seats foul. And a fan from Stockbridge bobbled that line drive. That happens in the late innings for the fans from Stockbridge. But they're very kind because they know to give the foul ball to the kids, so that's good.
It's kind of funny because Stockbridge, and when the foul ball was hit here in the ballpark, the PA played the sound of a cow moving.
Runner at first goes. The pitch is low, and Salas has added some gasoline to the fire here. The bases are loaded for Atlanta. Suzuki's aboard for a 3rd time, and Dansby Swanson will hit with the bases loaded. And Dan Worthen might be looking for some antacids. Dansby's 1 for 2 with a run scored. He's got him loaded with 1 out.
Nice balanced swing last time up. Don't try to do too much here.
Fly ball deep right. Bruce chased back to the warning track, to the edge of the wall, leaps right in front of the Coca-Cola sign to haul it in. Tagging and scoring is Markakis. It's a sac fly for Dansby Swanson. He hit it a long way the other way to plate the 8th Atlanta run.
That was a nice easy swing, and he almost hit it out of here.
Well, that would have been a grand finish to what's been a terrific day for Dansby Swanson. Lane Adams is going to pinch hit.
Dansby's 6th RBI. Runners at first and second, 2 outs. And Adams will hit for Ramirez.
Lane got his first big league hit on the road trip. Fireworks went off all over Red Oak, Oklahoma.
And he's got another one. Here comes Garcia around third. Conforto's throw to the plate is up the line. Lane's not giving him time to reload in Red Oak.
That's true.
And it's a 3-run Atlanta 7th.
And the pinch hitters are 2 for 2 tonight. Slider, they're backed up actually a little bit.
Ender Inciarte's had a big night. 3 more hits, 3 more RBIs. No balls at a strike. And now nothing in 2.
Sore right wrist knocked d'Arnaud out of the game tonight. That's why Plawecki was in there. And remember, they were thinking about putting d'Arnaud on the disabled list when he was trying to throw out a base stealer the other day and hit a bat with his hand or wrist. So obviously bothering him again tonight.
Little dribbler out toward Walker at second. He's got it. And the throw to first is in time. Big inning again for the Braves. They score 3 runs. They do it on 4 hits. First big league RBI for Lane Adams, the highlight of the 7th. 9-3 Atlanta. Let's check in with Kelsey for tonight's big story.
10, Adam Jones.
So out to Fenway tonight. This is why I love sports. A standing ovation for Adam Jones in his first at bat tonight. So this comes after the events last night at Fenway when there was racial slurs yelled at Adam Jones while he was playing in the outfield and stuff thrown at him. The MLB has done an incredible job with bringing light to this and making sure that fans everywhere know that there's no room for this in baseball and there's no room for this in society. Players are speaking up already. It was awesome to see Adam Jones speak up and say something to bring light to the situation.
No, I'm glad he did. Adam Jones is one of the good guys in the game. And this is not acceptable, and that's what Major League Baseball is doing. They're saying, you know what, you can't do this. We have to do something about it. But I have to give the fans at Fenway some credit for giving the standing ovation to Adam Jones. I know Paul Bird has some thoughts on this too. And Birdie, I want to see what you have to say. I thought this was a great moment.
I did too. This is progress. And Greeny, you and I both played together in Boston. They have great fans. Don't let a few guys ruin it for everybody else. But this just isn't a Boston problem. Racism everywhere. I love that baseball has shed light on this. I love that they've given attention to it. I love the standing ovation. Jackie Robinson coming in years ago. Baseball's at the forefront of hopefully ending racism. Probably will never go away, but bringing light, bad apples, and a sea of a lot of great fans. Great stuff. Chip and Joe, want to hear from you.
I think it's great, exactly what you guys said and what the vast majority of fans in Boston did tonight. Honoring, applauding, supporting one of the game's great players of any color, Adam Jones. And it is unfortunate that that kind of nonsense takes place in a major league ballpark, Joe. Just because you buy a ticket doesn't give you the right to be a Neanderthal.
I loved what the commissioner and the commissioner's office did and how quickly they responded to it and how they said it would not be tolerated. Would not be allowed in major league ballparks, and that anyone that thought that they had the right to do something like that just because they had a ticket would be ejected from ball games. And hopefully they would follow up and say, you'll never come back. You'll never be allowed back in the ball game.
How about publicly identifying?
Yeah. So kudos to the commissioner's office for stepping up right away on it.
Jay Bruce on the second pitch of his at bat with Eric O'Flaherty on the mound, flies out, and that's one away in the 8th inning. 9-3 Atlanta with 13 hits pummeling the Mets in game 2 of 4 tonight.
Good work for Eric in recent days. Gave up a run his last time out at Milwaukee, but before that it had been 6 or 7 outings for him where he hadn't given up a run. See that a .176 average against lefties.
Neil Walker hitting right-handed, takes a strike. By the way, in that Boston game that Kelsey mentioned, Red Sox did win today 5-2, and there's a little more controversy head-to-head with the Red Sox and Orioles. You might recall the quote-unquote hard slide by Manny Machado into Dustin Pedroia and the dust-up that took place, and the pitch thrown at Machado's head. Well, today Chris Sale threw behind Machado with a low 90s fastball at the knees, which I thought was interesting. Thought that was all done and taken care of. Apparently not. And the Red Sox got the last laugh today, winning by 3 at Fenway Park. Line drive by Neil Walker. That's headed for the left field corner. And Walker will have a 2-hit game. He stands at second with 1 out.
Yeah, that's one of those stories I was talking about, that there are some interesting stories going around. It was kind of prompted by Texas and Houston last night, but Boston and Baltimore going at it tooth and nail.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun race in the East, with the Yankees in that mix as well. The Yankees with all those young players that they've put together. Aaron Judge, one of them. Yankees surprisingly a game out of first in the East, as Kevin Plawecki, the Mets catcher, who took over for d'Arnaud, his first at bat, and he takes outside. Popped up first base side over near the Braves dugout. Freddie Freeman as far as he can go, and it's off the back of the screen, protecting the fans behind the dugout, and out of play. 1 ball, 1 strike. Cardinals beating Milwaukee 2-0. That game's in the 7th in St. Louis.
Cubs played Sunday night, correct, in Boston?
Yes.
And then last night they went home and played the Phillies and just got the tar beat out of them.
You know what time they got to Chicago?
No.
There's the 1-1 pitch. Foul back. 5 a.m.
I would really like to know what the record is of teams that have to play on Sunday night and then travel home and play.
Meaning the next day, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can't imagine that it's any good at all.
No. I don't know if that is going to be collectively bargained or if that was in the new labor deal. I know that scheduling was one of the main things that players were trying to improve, and by that I mean more sane getaway game start times. I believe there's been an adjustment that will take place on that next year. I'm not sure what the latest start time will be in most of those cases, but I think you and I have always said that the team that travels after the Sunday night game ought to have the day off the next day.
Absolutely.
And certainly from a scheduling standpoint, that shouldn't be that difficult, one would think. One ball, 2 strikes for Kevin Plawecki, and that's in the dirt. And look, this isn't a dig at the other rival network that has ownership of that game. They pay a lot of money. The players make a lot of money as a result of that. But ultimately, the end product, I think, is harmed because the players who participate the next day aren't at peak performance. Ground ball toward third. High hop. Adonis with the peg to first, and there's the second out. Milwaukee's retired. Pretty night at SunTrust Park. Braves have a 6-run advantage, and always a treat to take a look inside SunTrust Park from our beautiful Xfinity cam.
That's some green grass, isn't it?
Yeah, you better be careful if you're sitting behind the screen by the Mets on deck circle. That Xfinity cam can zoom right into your nachos. And look.
Yeah.
Nothing in one. To short. Dansby's got it. And Reyes jogs to first. He's an easy out. And Eric O'Flaherty works a scoreless top of the 8th.
Series sponsorship presented by Echo Outdoor Power Equipment.
Happy night at SunTrust Park so far. The fans have been chopping early and often. 9 runs on 13 hits for the Braves, who are gunning for their 11th win. And now they'll take aim at a torero. Paul Sewald attended the University of San Diego, where he was a teammate of Chris Bryant.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I know he almost made their club out of spring training. They liked him a lot. He was one of their last cuts. And so far his arrival in the big leagues has not gone real well, but they're hoping for better.
He was drafted and developed as a closer. He has never started a game before this season in the minor leagues. 66 minor league saves, 19 at Vegas last year, 24 at Binghamton the year before. And go back 30 years, that never happened. Guys would go to the bullpen because they had trouble starting, but they had good stuff. And a swing and a miss gets Brandon Phillips. And the 26-year-old right-hander out of Las Vegas takes care of the first he faces in the 8th. 1 man down. Sewald played winter ball last year. He was with the, since we're going to do the Los Bravos thing, Naranjeros, Hermosillo.
Orange pickers.
That's a lot easier to say.
There you go. Help you out.
Thank you very much.
Always one of the better teams in Mexico.
Really?
Very good organization. Nice town.
Freeman skies one out of play, foul, 2 balls and a strike.
Sure, Mr. Sewell will be comforted in knowing that you're helping keep the Toreros University in the pink.
Write a check every couple weeks, as a matter of fact.
Well, I know Summerlin's doing great there in her first year, and congratulations to her.
Two balls, 2 strikes for Freddie Freeman. A 2-run homer tied the game for the Braves. And then Atlanta really got to work. They scored a run in the second, 3 in the fourth, 3 more in the seventh. Matt Harvey gave up 6 runs in 5 1/3. Smoker 2 runs in 1/3 of an inning. Salas a run in his 2/3. And he challenged Freddie with a good live fastball, and Braves first baseman fouled it back.
He's got a little bit of a different arm angle. He's kind of the drop and drive type off that back leg, something Paul Bird knows something about. Maybe a little hard to pick up.
Freddie takes a walk with 1 out. Second time Freeman's been passed, and Matt Kemp is the hitter. Matt Kemp has worn out the Mets.
I'll say he's 1 for 3 tonight, and his average went down against him.
That's upstairs, ball 1. Remember when Atlanta went to New York for the first series of the year, the weather was very cold, very uncomfortable, and there was 1 hot hitter in the lineup. You're looking at him. This one's hit down the left field line and out of play.
Thought that might be another one like in Milwaukee, right around the foul pole.
.2-mile-an-hour fastball, 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Not missing by much. He almost had Freddie struck out on a 2-2 pitch.
Roller hit to the left side. Reyes has it, flips to second for 1. Off balance throw by Walker to first is going to be in time as Rivera hangs on, and Sewald gets out of the 8th. Last call for the Mets. It's a 9-3 Atlanta. Dansby Swanson, the Braves shortstop, has an RBI, a hit, a walk, and a run scored. But he was a big hit today in Marietta at Westside Elementary School. That's his mom, Nancy, who's a teacher at Westside Elementary, and it was Teacher Appreciation Day, and who surprised Nancy Swanson but her son Dansby with a hug and a bouquet.
What a treat. And what a nice son.
Beaming smiles from Dansby when I spoke to him about it before the game today. He said, you know, I haven't seen my mom or my dad for about 2 weeks because of the schedule.
Yeah.
You know, obviously he's not living at home now. And he said that was a real thrill just to get to catch up with mom. He said, you know, every now and then she comes over and does a little laundry, brings me a few leftovers, goes to the grocery store for me because he said, I don't have time. But he made time for mom and the kids today, and that was great.
Great visit. A lot of tomahawks I saw there too.
Yeah. So great visit. By the way, there's one more note about Westside Elementary School. That is the alma mater of our AD, Gretchen Caney.
Is it?
Base hit to left. Off Matt Whistler.
I did not know that.
She was the valedictorian of 5th grade all 3 years. She was there.
Hence the statue.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. She said they named the gym after her too, so she was there a long time. Here's Lagares. Lagares 0 for 3, hitting to a double play last time up. By the way, Matt Whistler's done a nice job in this role for Atlanta.
Very nice. 3 innings, 1 hit just before that one. 1 walk. No strikeouts yet, but he's been around the plate, getting swings. He's throwing really hard. He's been up around 95 at times. And if he can keep the snap on that breaking ball and not try to throw it 95, he can do some really good things.
Braves Live, presented by Xfinity, is coming up next. Well, one guy that I would assume would be very helpful for Matt in this new role, as that one's lined into center for a hit. Lagares with a single on an 0-2 count, would be Josh Colmenter. Josh Colmenter has started. He's pitched out of the bullpen. He's the quote-unquote long guy for the Braves, and that's kind of the same role that Matt is assuming now for Atlanta.
I think that's a good idea, and a lot of experience for Josh Colmenter to pass along.
This is Matt Reynolds. 2 on, nobody out.
I think both hits have come on sliders that did not have much bite to them.
No drama. Let's get this thing in the win column. Don't want to mess around with Bruce and company in this 9th inning. 2 on, nobody out. That'll help. Fly ball to right. And Nick Markakis squeezes that. No advance. 1 down. Well, you heard Nick and Kelsey talking before the game on Braves Live about the importance of this game for Atlanta. Yes, it's only the 2nd game of a 4-game series, but as streaky as this team has been, winning 5, losing 6, winning 5, Atlanta had entered tonight's play losers of 2 straight. They can put this to bed with 2 more outs and think about putting together a win streak of their own against DeGrom tomorrow night. Ball 1 for Michael Conforto. He's 1 for 3 with a run scored.
Ooh, thank you.
Some of Matt's best work in the major leagues has come against New York. Remember, he debuted with 8 shutout innings against the Mets at Turner Field. And lifetime, he's 3-1 against him with a 191 earned run average. This is his 7th appearance. He's made 5 starts. And a little tapper dribbled toward third. Adonis with a bare hand, throw to first. Got him! What a play!
My goodness. Boy, is he playing some third base. Bare-handed claw, strong throw. And they're going to look at this and probably overturn it. And even if they do, it's still a great play.
This one will be a very quick overturn. And the Mets are going to have the bases loaded on an infield hit by Conforto. And it was a gorgeous play. He's clearly safe. And the Mets trying to keep this game alive. They need a ton of base runners.
You know what? Here's what I'd like to see happen. Rather than wait for New York to tell Larry Vanover,
yep,
he sees it up on the big screen. Take the headphones off. Go, oh, crying out loud, he was safe. Let's go.
And if you don't want to do that, one of the suggestions that many people have had: give the crew chief a smartphone with an earpiece and send a tone to his ear and just say, change the call. I think that would speed up the process. But this is the procedure that they have, and I understand that baseball is going to stay with that until they make a change. But you're right. When it's that obvious, go ahead and avoid the theater of going to the headset. So now Chuck Hernandez is going to come out and talk with Matt Whistler, which could have been accomplished during the replay.
And he's buying some time, I think, for Jim Johnson.
Nationals are playing tonight, and they're losing. Arizona's winning in Nationals Park. That's a 5-3 game. Boy, the Diamondbacks have put together a terrific first month. They've lost Shelby Miller, who's going to have Tommy John surgery, but they have a ferocious offense. We'll see the Diamondbacks later. The pitch is cut on and missed by Cabrera. Strike one.
It was a good slider.
Braves would like an Asdrubal play and get out of the inning and put this one in the win column. Got the corner, curveball.
Back door.
Big year at the plate for Cabrera last year. A lot of homers. He's added one tonight.
A leadoff shot in the third inning. Nice catch. Great throwback.
No balls, 2 strikes. Play like that makes you think to one of the great stadium announcers in big league history, the man that used to work the microphone at Camden Yards, Rex Barney. Fan would foul a ball, or a player would foul a ball back. Fan would make a great catch, and he'd bellow over the PA, "Give that fan a contract." Heck, with an arm like that, you never know.
Right. I'm not certain, but it seems to me they actually did give fans a little proclamation.
They did.
Ushers or someone had a few nearby, and they'd write their name on there and give it to them.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Little tapper. Whistler will flip with his glove to the plate, and that's all Atlanta gets. But Rivera's forced and home plate. Bases are loaded for New York, and they're down to their final out. And you do have to face Jay Bruce, but it's a 6-run lead.
Scoop with the glove. Plenty of distance between Whistler and Suzuki so that Kurt could see the ball in flight with no trouble. Mr. Fidgety up there.
Ball one.
And he hit one out in the first inning.
Well, if form follows function, we had 2 leadoff homers in the first yesterday. We had 2 two-run homers in the first today. That means we're going to have 2 3-run homers in the first tomorrow.
If you're right, we're going to make some phone calls.
2 balls, no strikes. High fly ball. That's well hit left. Kemp will turn. That ball is gone. An opposite field grand slam for Jay Bruce. How big are those 7th inning runs looking right now? 9 home runs for Bruce. He's knocked in 6. And 22 runs batted in. And Matt Whistler cannot get out of the 9th inning. It's now a 9-7 game, and Jim Johnson will be summoned to get the final out.
And that was a fastball.
Know you love the Home Depot tool race, so make sure you're here early Sunday, May 7th, where the first 20,000 fans through the gates will get the one-of-a-kind Fill the Bucket keychain presented by Home Depot. Go to Braves.com/tickets and get your seats. Jay Bruce has just hit his 5th grand slam. He's got his 23rd multi-homer game, and the Mets are making it too close for comfort. It's now 9-7 with 2 outs in the 9th. And Jim Johnson is on to try to save it.
I don't think Mets fans are ready to ship Bruce back to Cincinnati anytime soon.
Well, we talked about that in New York. Remember, they tried to trade him. Where in the world would they be without Jay Bruce? Walker takes a strike. Good fastball from Johnson. Matt Whistler, 2/3 of an inning. 4 hits, 4 runs. And now the Braves are a strike away. Big right-hander's ready to go. Here it is. And it's cute foul. Another 1-2 pitch for Walker. We'll do it again.
Good swing there from Walker. As you saw, good numbers against Jim in his career, 4 for 5. So there's a high level of confidence from Walker, even though he's behind in the count.
Swing and a miss, and that's ball game. Braves have evened the series, and they beat the Mets by a final score of 9-7. Atlanta with 12 more hits. Big night for Ender Inciarte, Joe, Freddie Freeman, and the bottom of the Braves order did a number on the New York staff as well.
And that's why you add on and continue to add on, because you never know when you're going to need them.
Braves earn their 11th victory of the season. The Mets fall to 11-15. R.A. Dickey now 4-0 lifetime against the Mets is the winner. Matt Harvey falls to 2-2 for the year and 3-6 all time against Atlanta. Plenty of good things to talk about tonight from SunTrust Park. We'll do that with you on Braves Live, presented by Xfinity. It's coming up next.